Ladies and gentlemen, it's your boy, the Hungry Hornet. Welcome to another video, and today's video is top things I wish I knew when I started riding my motorcycle. Things that people don't tell you, things that you might miss out on. And we'll start with the first thing I wish I knew. Road etiquette goes a long way. That's correct. Bikers, I believe, especially like younger bikers and certain bikers get a bad rap. You see people on sports bikes and just teenagers on L plates and whatnot. There's a perception there that they're out there causing trouble or snatching purses or snatching phones and blah blah blah. Whilst that might obviously be true in some places, generally speaking that's not the case. People don't tend to do that often in real life, I guess, but there's a perception that bikers are a little bit naughty or a little bit this or a little bit that. They're like speed demons, they're like adrenaline junkies. They're only interested in going fast and popping wheelies. Well, that's not the case really, is it? Bikers come from a wide sector of life, different backgrounds. They have different sorts of backgrounds and experiences, and they're not, one size doesn't fit all. Now, to help drive that home, sometimes it's best to work on your road etiquette, and a lot of bikers might not have the same road etiquette that you might have. So it's getting to know the do's and don'ts of riding a motorcycle and the things that you should do and you shouldn't do whilst riding a motorcycle. For me, it's pretty simple. Road etiquette should be number one, and it's something that a lot of bikers don't really focus on. And by road etiquette, I mean not speeding, not blindly coming out of junctions and overtaking on solids and all that sort of stuff. That sort of stuff is, it gives bikers a bad name, and it makes drivers less willing to sort of work with you. And road etiquette, I think, is the reason why I've managed to do so many miles unheeded, uninterrupted, unmolested, if you like, because I make sure that my road etiquette is good. I've got firm road presence, I've got firm head movement, I'm looking at people, I'm waving, car drivers thanking them for certain things, I'm trying to stick in the right lanes, trying to stay planted in the middle. It all goes a long way to sort of show that you do mean business. You are a man or a woman of great road etiquette, if you like. So that's one of the things I wish I knew when I started riding, is that people will look at you a certain way and judge you. Now that starts with your L plates. When you're on L plates and you're learning to ride your motorcycle, people will just assume you're a delivery driver or an incompetent buffoon that doesn't know the highway code and all that. And whilst that might be true for both of those things, it doesn't mean you can't educate a driver by showing your best self whilst riding, being the best example of a motorcycle rider, letting pedestrians cross, not obnoxiously revving your engine all the fucking time, like revving at lights and all that sort of stuff. It's that stuff gets old, and car drivers and other bikers, experienced bikers, look at that and go, oh my god, So it's good to find yourself a nice team of fellow motorcycle enthusiasts that might put you in the right frame of mind, and you can learn from them. So be a sponge. You can learn road etiquette, you can learn how to be the best biker you can be. Another thing I wish I knew is how much fuel does cost on a motorcycle. You think it's not going to cost a lot. You think, oh yeah, I'm going to whatever, or I'm going on a long trip and blah blah blah, and it's like you think, oh, I'm only going to need it's going to cost me 20 quid. It doesn't cost 20 quid. There's all sorts of fuel, there's all sorts of motorway prices. Fuel prices on services are poor, to say the least. How you ride your bike also affects how much fuel you use. So for instance, right now, because we're opening it up, we use more fuel, etc. And no one tells you that fuel doesn't last as long as you think it's going to last. You think it's going to last a long time, but you fill your bike up sometimes a couple times a week, and before you know it, you're spending 40 quid a week on fuel to ride your big bike. you know, everywhere. It's not the best. People don't really tell you about that, and people don't really warn you that that's what's going to happen, but it will happen. Another thing I wish I knew when I started riding a motorcycle is just how cold it can get. Gear and heated grips and heated gloves, you know, I used to look at that and go, ugh, you know, but the longer I've been doing this, the more I've realised that the cold is bad, and the cold can really affect, you know, your happiness and your attention during a ride. You'd be surprised how quickly your mood can change when it starts getting very, 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 very cold. So that's just one to keep an eye out on. It's obviously the cold. No one really tells you how cold it can get. The other thing I wish I knew before I started riding is just how addictive it is buying a motorcycle. No one tells you the endorphin rush you get when you buy a motorcycle. No one tells you just how often you're going to want to buy a motorcycle. So it's nice. It's a nice idea. It's like, oh, I wish I could have that bike, and then before you know it, you've got 2, and then you've got 3, and then you've got 6, and you've got 9. Now that might be coming from a place of privilege. Like, as I said before in previous videos, I'm a lucky man. I've got a good job. I do pretty well, you know, but it doesn't mean that I'm not willing to spend other people's money, like the banks or finance, etc., to get a new bike. No one tells you just how easy it is to get a bike on finance, but no one tells you just, like, when you do find that out, how tempting it will be to put a bike on finance. My advice to you is don't. Well, another thing I wish people told me when I started riding is just how silly it is to ride massively fast bikes. Like, it's just silly. It's like, you don't need, you know, did I really need a 750 Hornet? Not really. I could have settled on a 300cc engine that I had, to be fair. However, I'm glad I bought the 750 in the long run, because I've ended up doing more things with it, going long distances and stuff. But the truth is, you don't need a very fast bike. No one needs a very fast bike, but no one's going to tell you that. They're going to... Actually, what they're going to do is going to tell you, oh mate, you didn't buy the 1000, you didn't do this, you didn't do that. Don't listen to them, mate. If you're happy with your little Vespa, crack on. There's nothing wrong with it. Another thing I wish people told me before I started riding a bike, or I wish I knew at least, was that when you pass your motorcycle test, you don't necessarily need to upgrade your bike. You can stay on the bike you're on. There's nothing wrong with that. Get your money's worth out of it, mate. You know, put some miles on it, you know. Hone your skills and your craft and just be a little bit better on the bike, you know. Because the bike you know, and the bike you're comfortable with, is the bike you're going to end up learning the most on. It takes a while to get used to a new bike, and it takes a while to really connect with a bike. So, you know, I wish people would have told me that it was unnecessary for me to jump through bike after bike, you know. Once you find a bike that fits, which is any bike by the way, make it work for as long as you can. If it starts going mechanically wrong, then yeah, go for it. If it isn't, just make it work. You know, you'll be surprised how many memories you can make on a bike, and you'll be surprised how attached you can get to a bike, even if it's rubbish. And another thing I wish I knew before I started riding was just how much of my life motorcycling was going to consume. It's a commitment to hone the craft, it's a commitment to get better, and it's a commitment to you know, do things on a bike. You know, it will take over your life, and it will make you feel like 100% better about everything. That's my opinion on that. It will change your life. You know, motorcycling can change your life dramatically. Another thing I wish people told me before, and I wish I knew before I started riding a motorcycle, was just how many people were going to say stuff like, oh, you know, you could die on a motorbike. That gets annoying fast, and it gets old fast. Yes, you can die on a motorcycle. Yes, you can die as a pedestrian. Yes, you can die on a bicycle. Yes, you can die in a car. But people seem to think there's some sort of public service to remind motorcyclists of their mortality, and it just gets a little bit old, in my opinion. And the final thing that I wish people told me about riding a bike is just how tiring it can be. I mean, it literally can sap your energy riding a motorcycle. It can literally make you feel tired. It can make you feel, you know, really tired on long trips, and it can really knock the stuffing out of you. You know, it's something that can be quite, like, you know, since I started riding bikes, I get like repetitive strain injury on my wrist, my hands from the throttle and the clutch, and you know, it's like it takes a toll when you're riding it all the time in adverse weathers and all that sort of stuff. So it's like, it's very important to bear that in mind. You know, you can get backache from riding a motorcycle all the time, and butt ache. I mean, I went through a phase a couple of months ago where my butt was hurting all the time, mate. All the time from riding a bike. No matter what I was sitting on, my butt just became a little bit sensitive, which people told me just how tiring it is. But then I guess most people aren't doing the miles I'm doing, so it's probably that's what it is. But for all the negatives that I wish people would warn me about, I wish I knew but about before I started motorcycling as a hobby, it's the one thing that I can say, it's very rewarding, even when you're stuck in this weird traffic jam that seems to be happening right now. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. What do you wish you knew about motorcycling before you started? Have I missed anything out? Obviously it's all very like retroactive and very like personal, and like, you know, these are things that you feel about motorcycling. However, it is also very, very personal and very, very it's like a personal experience, motorcycling. Not everyone feels the same way. There are people out there that couldn't give a hoot and still ride a bike, and they're just happy to be on the bike, or they're just happy to have two wheels to get them somewhere. It's the cheaper option, etc, etc. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm firmly of the same ilk. You know, one of the main reasons I don't really rate driving is just because how expensive it is to start driving. Starting to ride a motorcycle is also just as expensive, but a lot more fun. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Till the next time, I've been the Hungry Hornet. You've been incredible. Peace.